Hello there, I'm Blackbright, broadcasting out of the UK into your homes. Welcome to my channel. You can click the thumbs up, you can click the thumbs down, you can like, and you can subscribe, and you can share. So thank you for passing by today. I'm going to do an accumulation because I haven't done a video for a couple of days. So I just wanted to cover some short messages. I'll call them messages as opposed to news. And you can take from them what you will. Okay, the first one I saw this morning, headline was 1/5 of English people in a study blame Jews or Muslims for COVID-19. That was the 22nd of May, published by Newsweek. I just thought as a headline that was quite divisive. And I wondered why a newspaper or Newsweek would publish such a controversial and provocative, it's raining, pelting down, but would publish such a provocative title. 1/5 of English people in study blame Jews or Muslims for COVID-19. And what is ironic is that that is the smallest percentage out of the study. Now, if it was like 90% of the study blamed Jews or Muslims for COVID-19, then I can understand that being a headline. But what they're saying is that half of the people in England believe in conspiracy theories about COVID-19. So why not headline that as opposed to the 20% of Jews? If 50% of people in England believe in conspiracy theories. And then they say nearly 20%. It isn't even 20%. So that could be 17%, 18%, agree separately that either Jews or Muslims were responsible for spreading the virus. So these little words that they put in there, so not only is it under 20%, but it's also a combination of Jews and Muslims. And also, they're not quite sure what percentage from what I see. And it's also to some degree. You see what I mean? And yet they headline the newspaper, front page news, I think it was, with that kind of provocative headline. No wonder there's so much divisiveness and racism when you put that as a headline in a magazine. So anyway, Jews, to some degree, they say, they blame it on them to collapse the economy for financial gain. So that's why they believe the Jews are blamed for the coronavirus. Then the second one about Muslims, and also to some extent, are spreading the virus as an attack on Western values. I mean, how ridiculous is that? When you think it came out of China, that we're told. So what has Muslims and Jews got to do with that? I mean, these people are so provocative. Then they say approximately 59% of adults in England believe, and also to some degree, that the government is misleading the public about the cause of the virus. And then in this study, 62, and the study involved 2,500 people. Okay, 62% agree to some extent that the virus was man-made. And that is the highest percentage, 62%. So to me, that should have been the headline. Some say it's not a virus, but a bacteria, which is treatable by aspirin, because what it does is there's something to do with the coagulation, and it's causing blood clotting, which is preventing the breathing and the flow of the blood. So they've got all of these reasons at such a high percent, and yet they choose to blame Jews or Muslims as a headline. So that is just an observation. So I just wanted to mention that. and let me have your thoughts on why you think that might be a headline. NHS workers who are migrants from EU or the Caribbean, if they die in service, the family gets kicked out of the country as the indefinite leave to remain would not be granted. They are excluded from the bereavement scheme. Well, Hassan Akkad, he's an NHS cleaner from Syria. He appealed to Boris Johnson, made a big stink, crying and everything, because his girlfriend, if he died, would be kicked out of the country. So Priti Patel has looked into it, and I believe the bereavement scheme now includes these workers. That is the cleaners, the porters, the social care staff. I mean, to be honest, it would be really unfair if somebody who worked for the NHS dies as a result of contracting the coronavirus while on duty and their spouse kicks out of the country. I'm not quite sure why that would happen, because unless the spouse doesn't have indefinite leave to remain, but apparently I don't know how that works, unless the spouse hasn't got their papers, is not legitimately in the country, but they should do. I can't believe that if two people have their indefinite leave to remain and one dies in the country, that the spouse would have to leave the country. That doesn't make sense. Does it make sense to you? Let me know. Okay, something else. Let's say, I think this is kind of good news. So apparently Caribbean islands are dealing with the COVID-19 the best. We are told that while COVID-19 can affect anyone, they're saying that being poor is supposed to increase the risk of catching it. But it's ironic then that the developing nations of the Caribbean, often called third world countries, which are allegedly the poorer countries, have been less vulnerable to the disease than the richer parts of the world, i.e. the first and second world countries. Death in third world Caribbean has been minuscule comparatively to Europe, Asia and North America, with just 84 fatalities across 20 nations. And this is according to BBC World News Report. Now, don't you think it's ironic, not only that these third world countries are combating the virus and there's so few fatalities, 84 over 20 nations. I don't know how that translates into number of people, but it sounds like a lot to me. And yet, in the UK, in the first world countries like the UK and North America, they are claiming that the virus is disproportionate to blacks and BAME. So how does that work? You would think that the Caribbean, which is mostly black, and Africa, they'd all be dropping dead like flies. And yet 84 fatalities across 20 nations. That's absolutely brilliant. Now, what they're saying is it's because they locked down as soon as they heard about the first case in another country, before a case actually came into the country, and before they saw the first death in the country. So what they're saying is the reason why the fatalities are so low is because they took stringent measures right from the get-go. But then when you think of a lot of these Caribbean countries, they've been breaching the lockdown rules, haven't they? We've seen them having their own little parties. We've seen them congregating outside supermarkets. We've seen them impact markets. So what does that say? That kind of, it's even though they're meant to be locked down, or they were meant to be locked down, but they weren't. A lot of them defied the rules. So technically, if the reason why they're saying that the percentage is so low is because of the lockdown. They've been defying the lockdown. There has to be another reason. So let me see. And the person who had the coronavirus in Jamaica was a UK, was a Brit. So the indigenous people, it didn't come and land on Jamaica, on all the indigenous Jamaicans. It didn't do that. No, it was brought in by a European. And that's how it got in there in the first place. But it just shows you, doesn't it? You know, you've got people saying, oh, you've got to be so careful. Oh, are you worried because you're black? Are you worried? The thing is that I think, like I said, if you're placed in the line of fire where you are in close proximity to people who have the coronavirus and the lockdown, of course, it saves lives. But if you're in close proximity, like the people in the hospitals, you're bound to catch it much easier. So that is what I think is disproportionate. So what else have we got? Should we be buying hydroxychloroquine? Hydroxychloroquine. Should we be buying it because Donald Trump is using it? I mean, how can the President of the United States endorse hydroxychloroquine and say it's a miracle drug? It's a fantastic drug and he's taking it. When they're telling all of these people on YouTube about, people who are talking about holding their breath. I mean, that's less harmless. They're taking them down off of YouTube for misinformation. And people are telling people to take bleach. I know that, well, even Donald Trump was talking about disinfectant. But they're telling people about all these remedies and they're taking them down for spreading disinformation and misinformation. And that you've got the President of the United States talking about he takes hydroxychloroquine. So, of course, yours truly went online to see if you could buy it. And there is a website where you can get it. I think £38 for 60 tablets. No, £15 for 30 tablets and £68 for 90 tablets or something like that. Anyway, the first time I went on it, it went in the basket. After that, this, out of supply, all kinds of stuff. You couldn't get on the website and all sorts. So they don't want you getting hydroxychloroquine. So I think that is quite troublesome. That he feels it's okay to do that. On the one hand, I think he's covering his back just in case somebody betrays him and tells the public that he's taking it. On the other hand, he's either extremely honest, which I think he is. I think basically Donald Trump is an honest person. People don't like him because they call him racist. They call him they call him a bigot. They call him all kinds of names. But he speaks his truth. And normally people kind of are more diplomatic. They're much more polite in their behaviour. And as a president, they expect you to behave in that kind of way that is not abrasive. But Donald Trump is quite open and quite direct and quite honest. And yes, it gets him into a lot of trouble, but that's what he's gone and done. He's taken hydroxychloroquine. He's something else, isn't he? Anyway, Heart Matters had it touted as a miracle cure, but that there is mixed evidence to support hydroxychloroquine as a treatment for the coronavirus. Heart Matters is an organisation that raises money to research cures and treatment to combat heart and circulatory diseases. So, and hydroxychloroquine, as we all know, is a drug used to prevent malaria. It's been out since the 1940s. It's a synthetic form of quinine. And when I was living in Angola, that's what I used to drink, gin and tonic, because in the tonic it's got quinine. And it was supposed to help protect us from malaria. It's been used to treat autoimmune conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. With any drug, there are contraindications, e.g., if you're taking by antibiotics, Tylenol, HRT. Apparently, your eyes need to be examined before you take it, and you need to be quite responsible and have GP approval before you take it. So, those people who are influenced by Donald Trump, he is an influential person. They might be trying to get it, but I don't think it's available over the counter. Should he have kept it to himself? I'm not sure. Should he have admitted it and added a disclaimer? Like when you're watching X Factor and somebody does something dangerous and they say, don't try this at home. He should have said something like, yes, I'm taking it. I think it's a good drug. No, he shouldn't even say, I think it's a good drug. He'll probably say, I'm taking it for my own personal reasons, but I do not recommend anyone else taking it. It has not been approved, so therefore you should not take it or should not try to access it. Now, if he'd sent that disclaimer, then they couldn't jump on him like that. But once you say, I'm taking it, you're sitting up there as bright as a button and saying you think it's a fantastic drug. What message are you sending people? So, Hydroxychloroquine, 200 megs. Oh yeah, 200 megs is $15 for 30 tablets. 60 tablets was $57, and it had, I think it was £16 for shipping to the UK. But nearly got it. But then it stopped me. These systems are so clever. Honestly. The internet, technology, data analysts, absolutely brilliant. To be able to siphon out who wants what you're allowed to get, what you're not allowed to get, what you're allowed to see, what you're not allowed to see. I got an email from, I don't know how many more, but I got an email from YouTube saying they've taken down a couple of my videos. I didn't even think they were controversial, but obviously they were. So, yeah, that's it, I think, for now. Have a wonderful long holiday. I don't know if in other parts of the world Monday is a bank holiday, but it's a bank holiday in the UK. I think we're going to have a rainy weekend, so that's not too great. But hey, as long as we're alive and are well and you're with your family and with those you love and you can embrace each day, that's more than enough, I think. There's so many people who are not in the position we are in to look at videos, to make criticisms, to make judgments, to compliment, to advise. A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people cannot even write. A lot of people are blind. They can't even see. They can probably only hear what people are saying. So we have to be grateful for small mercies, for what we have. Might not be much, but we've got to be grateful all the same. That's all for now. Bye-bye.